Hello, hello. Welcome to Moving Beyond Burnout. Are you a Black woman who is ready to live a light life? So, today we are going to talk about it. So, if you're joining me for the first time, please like the video, please share it with a Black woman who you know of who may be struggling with stress and burnout. And also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and my newsletter, which is in the description. So, how to live a light life as a Black woman. So, I have just been thinking about what are just some of the things that are really holding Black women back from experiencing a life of ease, from not being overburdened, not being, the superwoman, which are things that are talked about pretty often now. I think every time I look at the social media or in friend groups or just, in discourse about mental health, a lot of people are very focused on the superwoman syndrome. Where Black women are trying to do and save everybody and not focus on themselves. People are talking about the soft life, which are, Black women leaning into not being hard, but being, soft or feminine or having lives of luxury, which I think both are really, really important. But when I sit down and really think about the women that I come into contact with at Sister Afia, when I think about my friends, when I think about women in the community, or just what I see in the media, I believe that Black women are carrying a lot. And that is one of the biggest contributors to the stress and burnout that is rampant within our community. So today I'm going to be talking about something that I think is worth talking about. I haven't heard anybody use the term, but I want to talk about how to live a light life as a Black woman, how to release burdens and struggles that keep us down so that we can experience liberation. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is like why Black women are overburdened. Um, Historically, I think that for survival, Black women have had to carry a lot of different roles and responsibilities that have morphed and changed throughout time. Earlier, in the 1900s, it was more about care. Well, even in slavery, caring for, other people. On the plantation, caring for other people who were a part of your community while doing this back-breaking work, right? And so that is, one of the origins of us being overburdened. And then as we move to, the 20th century, because of survival, Black women have had to not just think about themselves, but have had to think about other people around them, whether it was supporting financially or economically, having to, show up and step into additional roles and responsibilities where other people may have fell short. And then, of course, always feeling like we have to prove ourselves. So maybe taking on more to show our worth, or doing double the work to get half the recognition, or even some recognition at all. But as I've shared in my work, I have just really seen Black women just really taking on a lot. I mean, I was talking to my husband and I was like, what's contributing to Black women feeling so stressed? And I think we just have so much on our plates, and also the feeling like we can't take things away and take things off of our plate. So when I think about Black women feeling overburdened, I think about Bag Lady. I don't know if you all remember the song by Erica Badu. I believe it came out in the early 2000s, maybe the late 1990s. But in the song, she describes this woman who is carrying all these different responsibilities, carrying things from her past, carrying different relationships and different struggles. And that is her plight. That is what she is experiencing and what she is going through. And it's getting in the way of her healing and getting in the way of her liberation. So I would like you all to think about, like, what are the things that you're carrying that you need to release to experience liberation? That can be everything from getting out of a toxic relationship. That can be, maybe not taking on as much of a leadership role in your families, in your communities, letting go of the past, shame, different things that have happened that have shaped who you are today, but that you're ready to move forward from. So, Bag Lady, to me, when that song came out, I was a lot younger, but as a grown woman, I understand it so much more in the context of mental health and in the context of stress and burnout, of all the things that we are carrying day to day. And so the next thing that I want to talk about are 4 ways to begin to live a light life as a Black woman. So the first thing is to release responsibility. Um, that is can be a little bit of a controversial thing to say, because we all have different responsibilities. We all have different obligations. But something that I see very often with Black women is immediately showing up to take responsibility, whether it's in our families, in our communities, in the workplace. It's something in us that wants to do something, that wants to take responsibility for others. And it may be our nurturing nature, it may be rooted in social justice and equity, wanting to see other people thrive. But when we take on so much responsibility, it doesn't allow us time to really prioritize our own needs. And so, thinking about what are the things that you want to release responsibility from. Like I said, we all have responsibilities, but there are some responsibilities that you may be taking on that you really don't have to. And when you take on those responsibilities, it adds to feeling overburdened. And so the first way to live a light life as a Black woman is to release responsibilities, or feeling like you have to be responsible for so many other different parts of your life and others. The next one is just releasing having to prove yourself. A part of why I think so many of us take so much on is because we may be trying to prove our value and maybe trying to prove our worth. And when you are constantly striving and trying to prove yourself, your value, your worth, that you belong, all those different things, you are actually in some regards, like putting more on yourself to prove your value and your worth. And I know, there's constant phrases of like, you are enough or you deserve to be here. And we hear those very often, but for real, like, you are enough and you deserve to be here, and you don't have to take on more to prove your value and your worth. And what I really love in this season is seeing so many Black women who are saying that, I am good just as I am. Maybe there are things that I can do to improve or evolve, but I don't have to go above and beyond to prove myself and take on more just so that people can see me or see my value. The next is to release rigidity. So there are certain standards or certain boxes that we can sometimes put ourselves in. And the more rigid we see our lives, the more rigid that we move through our lives, the more that we feel like we may have to take on to stay in that box. So, for example, I'll give a brief example about my personal experience as a leader, right? So, in my organization, starting a nonprofit from the ground up. So coming in, I had all these ideas of how I'm supposed to be as a leader, how I'm supposed to operate as, an executive in a nonprofit. And so that rigidity made me take on things that I honestly really didn't have to take on, and that I could have shaped in a different way to meet the needs of the community and the vision that I have for Black women's mental health. And so sometimes the rigidity of we have to do things a certain way to get ahead, or we have to live our lives in a certain way, actually makes us take on more that we really don't have as a desire in our hearts. So the third way to live a light life as a Black woman is to release rigidity. And the last one, the most important, is to release the past. There are so many people who are talking about shame, and are talking about past traumas and past struggles. And those things live with us, but they do not have to define how we move forward in our lives. And so, in mental health, just seeing whether it's in therapy sessions or in groups, how much Black women are holding on to things that have happened in the past. Not that we don't acknowledge those things or don't recognize their impact now, but the holding on to the different challenges or experiences that we had in the past greatly shape how much we are literally carrying mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually in our bodies. And so releasing the past looks different for every person. Everybody's process to healing is different. There have been things that I have had to release from the past, mistakes that I've made, shame, different difficulties that I wish I could have done things a different way, or I wish that I wouldn't have experienced different trials and tribulations. But when I began to talk to myself in a certain way, to have compassion, to have kindness, um, to have empathy for who I was and what happened in the past, I was able to move forward lighter as a Black woman. So these are the 4 ways that I want you all to think about how you can live a lighter life as a Black woman. I believe that stress is a normal part of our lives, but it is not something that we have to constantly carry, or something that has to be at the forefront of our existence. Right now, I'm sure so many of you all are facing different things in regards to what's happening in our personal lives, but what's happening in the world. And we do not have to carry all of that on a regular basis. So the first way to live a life as a Black woman, live a light life, is to release responsibility. So not stepping up and taking care of or taking on more than you really have to. The second is to release proving yourself. You are valuable, and you deserve to be here just as you are. And you don't have to take on more so that people can see you and value you. And you do not have to always prove yourself. And so that is the second way to begin to live a light life as a Black woman. The third one is to release rigidity, get out of these boxes and these standards that make us take on more than we really have to, and to try to live out your life and the vision that you have for your life in a way that is free and liberated as much as possible. And then the last one is to release the past. And as I said, that is the hardest one. That's why I put it last. But I believe that when we're able to release the past, we can move forward lighter, and we can move forward in liberation and freedom. So yeah, these are ways to live a light life. If there are ways that you are trying to live a light life right now, please put it in the comments. If you see any women in your community who are living a light life, please share that in the comments as well. I believe this is like really the next step for Black women. Like I said, I think we've gotten the superwoman piece, we've gotten the soft life, but now let's move forward in liberation and have a light life. So join me every other Thursday at 12 p.m. Central Time. And I will be talking about various different topics as it relates to stress and burnout. with it being April and Stress Awareness Month, please reflect on your life and what is causing you stress. And think about ways that you can begin to lean into well being and to let go and change some of the dynamics that are causing stress. So I just want to uplift that. And then lastly, our next topic will be caregiver burnout, taking care of ourselves while taking care of our families. So I will have a special guest, Montina Myers Galloway. She has put together a caregiver retreat that focuses on caregiver burnout. Caregiver burnout is something that people are experiencing across the board, but a lot of caregiving falls on the weight of Black women. Right now in my family, we are dealing with caregiving, for our grandparents and for our parents. And I see the burnout and how it affects, caregivers. And so I want to have a space to talk about it and to provide tips and strategies about how we can still show up and love and take care of our family members, but to also try to take care of ourselves in the process. And it is complex and it is difficult, but I believe that it is possible. So I will see you all in 2 weeks with my special guest to talk about caregiver burnout. As always, please like the video. Please share. Please subscribe to my newsletter. It's in the comments. I release it every 2 weeks. And I hope that you all move into living a light life as a Black woman and take care of all of you and be well.